All right, people, what's going on? Second stream of the day, Halloween weekend wrap-up / election day. If you are in the city, obviously go out and vote if you want. It's your prerogative. I'm not going to be one of those guys that tells you to go out to vote. And that's neither here nor there. But I am here once again with my good friend Gal Balaban. Gal, you haven't been on the show in a minute, man. Have you been?
It's really been a sec. I'm good, man. Since I was on the show last, we actually got to meet in person for the first time, which was really cool, in the great city of Toronto during TIFF. And just been a lot of movies have come out since then. I think it's been around a year. I hope I'm not wrong since the last time I was on the show. But I'm really looking forward to talking about these movies, and it's really a pleasure to be welcomed back. And I also got to have a little guest appearance where I had the pleasure of presenting in the Talkin' TV Awards.
Yes, you did. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And thank you also for doing that, because that was really
it was
awesome.
Fun.
The fact that all of you came through for that. And not only did all of you come through, but all of you delivered, because again, this is how long I've been doing this now. I know all of you so well that I've gotten to know like all of your like individual little like quirks and like what makes you guys like unique and such. And I was like, I'm like, I need each one of these guys to deliver on like their quirks that I know that they are good at. And every single one of you came through, like Nathaniel, Sean, Mac, Kristen, like all of you guys just delivered like such pros, and it was hysterical. I had an absolute, that was one of the most fun times that I have had editing a video in a very, very long time. So I wanted to thank you for that. And
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah, no. And so this is a little bit of an interesting one. So when we started this channel, me and Chris back in the day, we did this thing always around October, because Chris was always a big fan of Halloween and stuff. We would do this thing that he would call Shocktober, and it worked really well for us for about 2020 and 2021. And then once 2022 rolled around and things started to open again in the real world, we didn't have as much time to do it. So, but I was trying to do like something spooky for Halloween. I remember 2 years ago when, 3 years ago now when it came out. When Halloween Ends came out, and we capped that. I'm like, oh man, thank God this trilogy is over, because I was so sick and tired.
Yeah, that's a very top tier horror movie.
Oh God, that fucking movie. The less said about that, the better. But this was an interesting year because we got kind of what's interesting about the two movies that we're covering on this stream today is the fact that the one is getting its wide release this weekend, and it wouldn't technically be considered a horror movie, quote unquote, but because of the subject matter and who's directing it, and given how relevant it is towards what we are going through today, I think it kind of matters. That's Bugonia. And then also the other movie that we're covering is a movie you were able to see at TIFF. I just saw it this past weekend in theaters. It will not be dropping on Netflix until next Friday, the 7th. That is Guillermo del Toro's new adaptation of the classic Mary Shelley novel Frankenstein. So we'll be covering both of those today. But first things first, before we get started, man, I just want to know, like, what's your relationship to just like spooky season and Halloween in general? Like, are you like a big typical, like, do you go out of your way to do like the 31 days of horror for Halloween, that trend that I see on social media?
That's a great question. I think I'm the last person to do 31 days of horror. Like, horror, I think, came latest for me in all of the genres. And that's not because I think it's inferior. It just took me a while to get to them. I think I only got into horror around the time Get Out had come out. And then I only then I started to like go back and watch the essentials. But I try at least, every year, the week of Halloween, to check out one that I haven't seen before, or do something true to the holiday. This year, I finally watched the Evil Dead for the first time.
Nice.
I was very late with all those franchises, even like Scream and The Conjuring. I only caught up with in the last couple years. But yeah, horror is a genre where it's not one that I seek out all of them, but definitely there are some daring ones, and a lot of them end up even making my top 10 list, especially the ones that are more director driven than franchise driven, in my opinion. And sometimes there's a great, obviously, filmmakers are given a lot of creativity when it comes to horror, whether it's Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, etc. And I think they've had more of a prominence lately because of their success, but also because of how creative filmmakers have become with them. So I enjoy the occasional one, but I'm not one to rush to all of them. But a lot of them do raise my curiosity. I saw a fair amount in theaters this year, like Sinners, Weapons, Together, 28 years later. But there's some that I still have not seen yet, like Black Phone 2 from the last year. I feel like when I'm not in theaters, like I need to be in a certain mood to put on a horror movie. but once I do, I'm usually not sorry about it. I usually have a good time.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, honestly. Because my whole thing with horror is, for the longest time, I didn't watch it because, and I'll be honest, it's because my mom does not like horror, so understandably so, would not let us watch horror movies when we were a kid. But as I got older, obviously, you know, for me, it was Alien was kind of like my first like kind of birth into like, oh, horror movies can actually be like really cool and well made and interesting.
So I watched that a long time back. Yeah.
Is also people confused for a long time that like, oh, horror was just relegated to like cheesy 80s slashers, which now are like kind of considered camp. But the genre of horror has become like so far outreaching, and right now kind of, and as a result of movies like Get Out and all those movies, you know, the Blumhouse movies, the auteur driven works that came out of A24, like I said,
Substance.
the,
Yeah.
the Ari Asters, the Robert Eggers of the modern day filmmaking era, has kind of driven horror to become like one of the, I would say, most well-respected genres right now, of course, except when it comes to the Academy, but I digress there.
Well, at least the Substance got some love.
Yeah, but the substance had social commentary aspect going for it. Like, you're never going to see them nominate, like, just straight horror. Like, the fact that Frankenstein is getting as much, like, Oscar potential love is very, very interesting, because I feel like if it was anybody else other than Del Toro, who is a previous nominated Academy Award winning director now, like, it wouldn't be getting the love, because Nosferatu didn't get jack shit last year, and that was one of easily the best movies.
Nominations.
Four
But I
nominations.
agree. I think that's a subject we should
Technical
definitely
awards.
talk about once we get to Frankenstein.
Yeah,
It's
and technical
something I
awards.
wanted to bring up for sure.
Yeah, but as far as kind of my relationship with horror and where it's gone, my thing with horror now and kind of what it is it is what I've noticed, the only genre that can actually generate revenue based on original IP, which almost no other genre you could say that for. Like, they're claiming they're trying to make a comeback with comedy, but Naked Gun is based off IP. You know, the only difference is that the original is so old that I'd be shocked if there's any like Gen Alpha or like kids younger than us, right, who would know what the original is even. So the fact that horror is a genre, like you were saying, the fact that two of the biggest movies this year were original scripts, Sinners and Weapons, both commissioned by Warner Brothers, also under Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca. Unfortunately, who may be out of a job by this time next year once Warner Brothers gets acquired by whoever it is that's going to acquire it. But it's just been really nice to see how expansive the horror genre has become and what kinds of different movies it's given us over the last couple of years, including the two movies that we're going to talk about today. Ironically, like I said, the fact that Bugonia is not a horror movie per se, it's another kind of, it's another like auteur driven work from an auteur director who has come around and really made a name for himself in the last couple of years. Particularly, he was already on the rise prior to COVID with movies like The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and then The Favorite blows up and becomes this massive Oscar darling around that time. Gets Emma Stone her third Oscar nomination at that point, wins Olivia Colman her first Oscar, and that's when all eyes are on him. Then COVID happens, he goes away for a couple years, but then he comes back with Poor Things in 2023, 2 years ago, which was also very well regarded by the Oscars, won Emma her second Oscar, and now here we are 2 years later. Real quick, because this is the one that I feel like has kind of gone under the radar, what did you think of Kinds of Kindness when that came out last year?
I liked it. I would never revisit it. I thought the last storyline was really good. It's not one I would ever rewatch. I'd probably put it at the bottom of his English language movies, but you know, I got a pleasant is not the right word. Like, it's a good film.
Pleasant is not the word I would use to describe that movie.
Good film, but it's like, I don't know. I don't feel strongly about it. It's a good movie, but I definitely wouldn't rewatch it.
Yeah, my thing with Kinds of Kindness was that I hadn't seen a movie that was like 3 different anthology stories that were just like all with the same guy. I hadn't seen that in a minute. I think like, because I like grew up like, well, specifically in film school, I really enjoyed movies like that. Specifically movies like Amores Perros by Iñárritu is one of my favorite movies that I watched while I was in film school. So even though ultimately the movie, I don't necessarily know if it amounted to much or anything, if it was mostly just Yorgos getting a chance to work with all these great actors and essentially do 3 short films simultaneously that are edited together into one long film. I don't necessarily know if that movie was about anything. I don't know if it was trying to say anything the way that this movie and his other efforts are, but it was just nice to see that kind of a movie done in theaters. And honestly, I just had a good time with it.
Yeah, I think it was just what the title implies, like kinds of kindnesses that people ask or do to each other. Again, I liked it, but Jesse Plemons got a Golden Globe. Like, he's the best thing. Like, his performance is the best thing that came out of it.
I mean, and it shows because it translates pretty damn well into this movie where Yorgos is like, hey, so I saw this movie, the South Korean movie that came out in '02 or '03 called Save the Green Planet. I'm thinking about doing like a modern day update for it, which that's the first thing that I didn't even realize is maybe you notice it's like, I just didn't, that completely went over my head that this movie was a remake, first and foremost. Like
Mhm.
I had no clue of that.
You would not presume that Bugonia and Poor Things are like not just out of his crazy mind.
Right,
Not to mention he didn't write the scripts for either.
right.
Um, Bugonia is written. I only learned this after it's written by Will Tracy, who also wrote The Menu, which is a
Yes.
movie that I love.
Yes. Also a writer
Um,
on Succession as well. So that makes sense.
right, yeah. So this is a concept that's so insane, but I think the tone is really what makes it not just a straight comedy or not just a straight, horrific idea. Is that two extremists kidnap the CEO of a pharmaceutical company and presume that she's an alien and try to elicit a confession out of her. And it's as unsettling as it is funny because it kind of goes hand in hand. Like my audience was laughing when they say stuff like, we think that you're from this galaxy and that you have to report to this emperor and you have to enslave us. And it's like, it's just so insane. Interesting that, again, I don't consider this movie a horror movie at all. It maybe possesses characteristics of one, but I don't consider it a horror movie.
Right.
But it's funny because one of the movies that really sparked my love for horrors and thrillers is The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which was the first of his movies that I saw in theaters. And I've seen all of them since because I think Yorgos is one of those rare filmmakers. And a few have released movies this year, like PTA or so on, who like every moment is sort of unpredictable. They get creative freedom, from what I understand, and every moment anything can happen because they get free reign and they're not focused on catering to the lowest common denominator or the most people possible.
Well, I think what's so ironic about that statement is the fact that this movie, while not catering to the lowest common denominator, certainly is trying to make some form of commentary about it. Because, and again, this credit goes out to Will Tracy, the writer, obviously the original that it's based on, but also just Yorgos's kind of understanding of a certain kind of disenfranchised, specifically like, the disenfranchised kind of straight white male that has been obviously a figure of a lot of, let's call it punching down movies. Like these are types of characters that Hollywood has used as easy fodder for, in some of their previous efforts. And what I appreciate that Yorgos does with this is none of these characters are one-dimensional. Every single character in this is very three-dimensional, very nuanced. And I'm going to give a lot of credit to my coworker, Mike Alvarez, who was able to see this a little bit before me. When he saw this movie, which is about 2 days before me, he called me while I was still at work. That should give you an idea of how much he loved this. And literally was like, this movie goes so well hand in hand with One Battle After Another and Eddington in terms of just being perfect movies that show just like how America is just losing its mind post-COVID. They're like, yeah, Eddington is making fun of the right, One Battle After Another is for the left, and this movie is for the people who are right in the middle, just a complete downtrodden disenfranchised, where Jesse Plemons and his cousin, who I really got to give a shout out to this kid, Aiden Delvis is the dude. I don't even, this is another one of those instances, I don't know if he's an actor, but it's one of those instances where he is just so just straight laced, and like it's the beauty of his performance and his character comes from, like, you can tell that that's probably just what that guy is like in real life. And if he is an actor and he's nothing like that in real life, then he just gave possibly the greatest performance of the year. But irregardless of that, the thing that makes this movie so ingenious with its premise, like you were saying, you pretty much already said the premise. I don't want to go too much into it because this really is one of those movies that all you have to know is the premise and then just go with it, because this movie is just
that's all I want to reveal about the actual story.
Exactly. It's a back and forth. It's a two-hander. The majority of the movie is very dialogue driven. It's between Plemons and Stone, back and forth. And what's so impressive is that this movie really does keep you on your toes, and it never once makes you think going in one way or the other, because you're like, okay, either one of two things is true going into this movie. Either yes, Emma Stone is an alien, although that's very highly unlikely, and Plemons and his guy are right, which creates all sorts of different horrifying different scenarios. Or the more likely of the scenarios that the movie presents is that these two are simply just disenfranchised, have just been left behind by the world, have been screwed over too many times, and are now just trying to get something what's theirs. And they're trying to take it out and kind of project their inherent anger onto somebody who they believe deserves it. In this case, that being Emma Stone's character. And the movie is very, very good at presenting all of the different kind of issues and problems. And, you know, with Emma Stone bringing up the fact that, like, okay, this is clearly a inherent symptom of the fact that you do spend way too much time on the internet, going down deep internet rabbit holes and such. But what I love too is how she's never once disregarding of them, even to the point where she is very clearly trying to placate them so that you know, she can clearly survive this. She never once like talks down to them, makes them feel less than or anything like that. And if anything, also, you almost end up feeling bad for her, which it kind of creates this weird psychological effect. You're like, wait a minute. Like, obviously, yeah, these two are doing the wrong thing, but like, I'm not supposed to feel bad for the evil, shitty, like, rich CEO, especially once you discover like what she did with his mom. So like, and already the movie is setting you up for something that is not going to give any easy answers, which is always a trademark of a great Yorgos movie.
Yeah, so I want to address a few things that you said. First of all, Aiden Dobis, great. From what I understand, he's actually on the autism spectrum, but I think he is like the window of empathy into the film. He's just being dragged along by his brother. He wants to be seen and found. Sorry, cousin, not brother. And going along with Clemens's character is sort of the only way that he can be seen or be of purpose or contribution to something. The Eddington comparison is very good, I will say, because it's like about byproducts of the internet. It's about sort of like this person is responsible behind all my problems. It's a movie about shared delusions, about how once a lie is started, it can't really be stopped. It alludes to a lot of the biggest conspiracy theories, whether it's, you know, a whole race of people pulling the strings or the flat earth imagery in there. It's all the imagery is brilliant here. And Plemons and Stone, I think, are giving some of their best work ever. But like you said, like sometimes Jesse Plemons, like everything he's doing is clearly detestable, but then he says something and I'm like, oh, you're right. Like he says something about big corporations or performative activism. And I'm like, yeah. That's exactly how I see it. Or Emma Stone.
Like, it's the meme from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's like he's way out of line, but he's kind of right there.
Yeah, he's out of line, but he's right. It's like Emma Stone is like, she's done shitty things, but she's like, yeah, dude, like the police are like yeah, like do what you got to do to survive. Like, it's interesting because there's a scene in like a dinner table where you kind of just see them talking as people. They're no longer like one captive or whatever, but like that can change any second. And yeah, it's always very like ambiguous, and the deadpan, there's a very interesting tonal balance of like unsettling and just funny, and I think that comes from the deadpan of like how seriously the characters are taking themselves. And there's a gag with another it's not real. I don't like calling it a gag because it actually gets really serious and dark, but there's another character who has two scenes and comes in.
Oh, the Stavros
there's
character.
A couple layers that they reveal about him, and I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. And that sort of reveals a path that set off a different character into this darkness. But I think it definitely alludes to political violence and polarization. Like, again, it's not trying to take a left or right side. Like this could have easily spoken to, I don't know, the violence against Charlie Kirk, but also the people that were like screwed over by the Sacklers and all this different. It's not taking sides, but it is addressing like how are we in this power structure in the world that we are so self-destructive and so like able to inflict so much pain on one another.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all of that. That's exactly it. And it all comes down to Yorgos ultimately, and the fact that he got an incredible sense of humor. Ultimately, at the end of the day, despite how cynical and absurdist his movies have gotten, they are ultimately very funny. And all of his movies, I would say that what turned me off from his first couple of movies, The Lobster and The Killing of a Sacred Deer, why I wasn't the biggest fan of them at first was because those movies, I would say that like he's the new Roland Emmerich in the sense of his cynicism towards humanity has to be studied. But where Roland Emmerich literally just wants to blow all of humanity up with some of the most gonzo, gargantuan, ludicrous action sequences that one could ever dream of, Yorgos instead just wants to focus on the human factor and be like, we are an inherently fucked up species. We are not that much better than animals, and this is the actions that we take when all kind of facade of society end up falling away.
It's
And
funny because animals are such a like recurring motif, like lobster, deer. Bugonia refers to
the
bees
bees,
coming out of a
exactly.
carcass.
Yep. Even poor things as well with the fact that he's literally creating like different like amalgamations of different animal parts. Like so.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Exactly. And
Interestingly, I was not as horrified by this one as like The Lobster. As great of a movie as it is, that was my first exposure to Yorgos ever. I was maybe 14 or
you
15.
want to talk about pouring a cold bucket of ice water over
It's
your
a
head?
very feel bad movie.
Yeah.
I was disgusted. Like there were so many awful things that happened. Again, great movie. Brilliant movie, but I was just
one of the most
so
cynical movies I've ever
disgusted.
seen.
Exactly. So by the time I got to Poor Things and Bugonia, like I know what to expect, so I can enjoy more of the violence and darkness.
And what's so interesting about that too is the fact that he is one of those directors who is very, very smart about his audience, and he understands that because all of his movies have come out in a very, very relative short amount of time. Because that's the thing. So Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness, and this movie are all back to back 3 years in a row. And then Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and The Favorite, it was the same thing, all three back to back in a row. So all of his movies come out in a very compressed time frame. So it doesn't leave you a whole lot of room in order to really like kind of experience a Jurassic World shift. You know, there you see this with directors who take like 2 to 3 years in between their movies, and you see the massive changes that can happen in the world in as short amount of time as a year. And so you'll see that often reflected in their work. But what I like about Yorgos is because he churns out his movies in such rapid succession of each other, he's able to kind of adjust and course correct with his audience in real time. And as a result, I feel like his movies have gotten not less cynical, but more, what's the word I'm looking for? They've gotten more kind of understanding and empathetic, I would say, towards humanity in a way that his earlier films kind of were. Because I don't know if you've seen his first movie, one of his first couple of movies that he did prior to The Lobster, Dogtooth, but I didn't see that movie, but I have heard some fucked up things about that movie.
It's really that's the only one that I just don't really.
Yeah.
It's objectively very well made. It was just so disgusting. Like even The Lobster, I guess, has the messages, has the cleverness to it. This was just so tasteless, and the characters were all so, I don't know, not for me, but I understand why it was so, like, it set off so much for him.
What that tells me is that he was a little bit of an angst lord in his early days, really working through some stuff and just seeing if he could push the envelope as far as he could. But now that he's older and also now that he's forged this great creative partnership with Emma Stone as well, he has kind of settled into his groove as kind of being the new social satirist, I would say. And honestly, truly, I think he's the best in the biz right now when it comes to that. The fact that, ironically, too, also, we're going to be talking about Frankenstein after this, but he kind of like kicked off the reinvigoration of the Frankenstein property with Poor Things, which is essentially
I was going to bring that up. That's ironic that we're talking about them both
on Frankenstein. So, like, you have that while also being like this incredible like feminist like kind of awakening story. And Kinds of Kindness is just like, okay, I just want to do like a couple different short films with all these great actors now that I can get them. But his creative partnership with Emma Stone and now with Jesse Plemons, which this is his second time working with Plemons, this is his fourth time working with Emma Stone. I mean, I really think that him and Emma are the new like Quentin and Sam, like the new Scorsese and De Niro and DiCaprio. Like they are the new like powerhouse like creative duo.
It's amazing. Yeah, you would think like I don't know. I completely agree with you, man. Like it's so great. Like I don't know. You can tell how excited she is to work with him every time from anew, and like Poor Thing. Like this collaboration gave us what I think is her best performance in Poor Things, and it's just sort of like you would have never. Like, of course, by the time I got into him, like The Lobster was already Oscar nominated and so on. But you wouldn't have presumed that like Poor Things, and it's one of those where like once he becomes beloved, like everyone just loves all the turnoffs become turn-ons. Like the fact that he's so daring is what's now making him more appealing, which I think sort of The Favorite and Poor Things set off. And like it goes to show Poor Things was a huge box office hit with wide audiences, and now
multiple Oscar nominated movie, won Emma her second Oscar,
4 Oscar wins.
Yeah, that was like arguably a massive success. And it's funny because Dustin and I did our Emma Stone Hall of Fame yesterday, and 3 out of the 4 Yorgos collaborations made it. Kinds of Kindness did not make it on for either of us, but the fact that every single performance that she's given with him, He's given her something different to do. None of her characters in any of those movies are even remotely similar. Again, the fact that she plays three distinctly different characters in one movie with Kinds of Kindness already shows you what she's capable of. The fact that it ultimately is always about play at the end of the day, but the fact that she has played a woman that is trying to navigate her way up through kind of political machinations, a woman who is again going through this sexual awakening with the Frankenstein kind of esseness to it with poor things, and now a CEO who may or may not be an alien is trying to remain empathetic while also trying to hide a secret of her own. Like none of those characters are one-dimensional in any way, shape, or form, and all of them are just like so different and so uncharacteristic because like what's so cool about Emma Stone as a performer and tracking her for as long as we have, because like she really came out like right when we were like started to get into movies as kids, because Superbad, like cause you're a little bit younger than me, but
Superbad, Amazing Spider-Man, like
the Superbad, so the Superbad Zombieland era of the late 2000s, then into Easy A, Crazy Stupid Love, and then getting into Amazing Spider-Man in the mid 2010s, then Birdman, which gets her first Oscar nomination.
Birdman is such an impactful movie for me as a film lover, by the way.
Yeah, and then she wins her first Oscar for La La Land. Yeah, I'm with you there. Birdman is my favorite movie still of 2014, and that was like one of my like core movies as far as like helping to reawaken me as a performer. But man, I feel like it's all been leading to this movie specifically, because her performance in this, like, I still feel like we've only scratched the surface as far as what she accomplishes in this.
Oh, for sure.
She's simultaneously like she does have like the killer instinct that like you would expect from most CEO types of that caliber. But what's so fascinating is that this is one of the few instances where even though by the end you realize that she sort of has been in control, you realize that there are, again, it's a tribute to the movie's balancing act as far as how it's able to balance your expectations of where it goes. You realize that like, oh, she was actually like in like mortal peril this whole time. And like she was at very, very high risk of dying. But with that being said, and at the risk of getting into spoilers, that doesn't necessarily mean that Plemons was wrong, is the thing.
It's interesting because obviously the whole movie, I'm like, this guy's wrong. He's a criminal. Then I read a review of like a website that I really trust and enjoy reading, and they say Emma Stone's character is less sympathetic. So it's interesting that there's room for debate there. By the way, you know who else I just saw right after like driving home from this movie, I listened to the Stephen Colbert most recent Emma Stone interview. And apparently Emma Stone's mom is also a huge Yorgos Lanthimos fan.
Really?
Ever since she's been acting in his movies.
Really?
And,
that's funny.
So that's a little fun fact too. I also just realized the Eddington comparison. She's in that movie too.
Yes, she is in Eddington as well.
Fun little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Ari Aster, also apparently a producer on Bugonia.
All the connections are coming through. All the connections are it's weird, all connected. It's all connected. We are all being manipulated as Eddington consistently was trying to push forward. Oh my God, I cannot escape from that fucking movie.
But I agree, like she's suddenly sort of stripped down of like her control, her hair, even like what she's used to. She's immediately put through humiliation, but there's a restraint and a calculation to her that we probably wouldn't have seen in, past performances if this was directed by a different filmmaker earlier in Stone's career. Jesse Plemons, like this is easily like a top 3 performance for him too.
Yeah. But real quick about Stone, I think that what's the most fascinating thing, and this is the last thing I'll say about her, is the fact that, and I covered this yesterday in the Hall of Fame as well, is the fact that she started off as kind of like the girl next door, like kind of whip smart, funny, redhead imagery. And now, I mean, it's proven that she is, I would say, one of the, not just most talented, but one of the smartest actresses in the biz because of her ability to kind of balance out all of these different tones. And she's kind of evolved. And the fact that now, like, you've tracked her career to the start in comedies to now, she's a multi-Oscar winning actress along the lines of, like, say, your Frances McDormands, your Meryl Streeps, exactly, your whatnots. And it's just really fascinating to track her. And I truly do think that she's becoming the new Katharine Hepburn, where she truly can do it all. Like, there's nothing that she cannot do. Not to mention the fact that there is a sequence in this movie akin to Reservoir Dogs. So for anybody who saw the trailer, they know that Basket Case by Green Day plays a pretty crucial part in this movie. Because you're like,
that's okay.
You're like, this is Yorgos.
That got a lot of laughs. Oh my God, that got a lot of laughs.
He's not dropping a needle drop like that just for shits and giggles for the trailer. He's using that in the movie. And
I actually did not. Fun fact, I did not see the trailer, so that needle drop.
Oh, so you had no idea what was going to be in this.
Also, I didn't. because I saw the trailer later and I realized "Good Luck, Babe" is such a big part of the trailer. I didn't know. So when she's jamming along to that, I'm like, good for Yorgos. So he knows Chapel Roan.
He knows Chapel Roan and he knows just pop culture in general. But listen, so I knew the basket case was going to be in the movie, but I didn't know when it was going to be included. And then for them to do a fucking Reservoir Dogs-esque torture sequence set to basket case, I'm like, this might be not only is this the needle drop of the year, like, and it already, like, American Girl at the end of closing off one battle after another was already, like, in contention for greatest needle drop of the year, but this might take the cake as far as that, because, like, also, like, as a child who grew up in the early 2000s, I'm a diehard Green Day fan, so any usage of their songs in any movie, I'm, like, already ecstatic about. So that just kind of set this up to already being even better than it already was.
I will say one other Yorgos motif that I noticed in this film: spaghetti.
He does like his spaghetti.
I was like, please don't do a close-up on it. Yeah, please don't make anything weird. And thank
like
God he
like
didn't
just shove it into their mouth really nastily the way that
Thank God he treated spaghetti normally in this movie. Yep. They could have gone there, but thankfully they didn't cross that line. Like, there are not many lines that, like, how do I say it? I don't know. Like, that was like, when people say like that was like unironically one of the most unsettling things in Killing of a Sacred, I understand. Like, for me, I don't know. Like, at least he didn't cross the dog line again. Because like in The Lobster and in Kinds of Kindness, he crosses the dog line.
He was getting a little Wes Anderson-y with how flagrantly he was just like tossing out animal deaths, just being like, haha, see, I get away with it. God, yeah. It's like, I don't know, buddy. You know the rules with horror. You could drop as many human bodies as you want, but the minute that you hurt an animal, you're risking some stuff, man. Just saying. You're risking spontaneous combustion right there.
I think like they need to do it like you know how, you know, obviously like John Wick is the most like pro dog movie. So they need to do like Keanu Reeves needs to do like a social media post, like, not okay, every time this happens. But
I'm just waiting for Keanu Reeves to announce that he's doing John Wick 5 and that John Wick 5 is going to be John Wick fighting his way out of hell and having to team up with Constantine. Like, that's the only.
It's like the music video of Montero by Lil Nas X, where the devil is like on the throne.
Literally that. I'm like, that is the only acceptable John Wick 5 that I will accept after being tortured by the 3 hours of John Wick 4. So. Yeah, so like I said, we're going to get to Frankenstein next, but before we get out of here, what are your final thoughts and overall star rating for Bugonia?
Okay, for me, it's a 9 out of 10. I really loved it. I'm not sure yet how it ranks for me for Yorgos, because I don't want to be like just excitement and recency bias. While I was watching it, I was like, this might even be his second best after Poor Things, just because of, you know, the balance of things and just the brilliance of the imagery. Yeah, I'm not sure. I am sure the rating is at least a 9 out of 10. I'm not sure exactly where it ranks for me, but it is. I think it's terrific. It's definitely one of the most. It's definitely up there, like top 5, maybe 6 right now of the year for me, but it's very much up there.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. For me, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5.
Awesome. Fantastic.
My favorite Yorgos movie by far to date, locked up for my top 10. Like, as of right now.
Number 2 after Poor Things for Yorgos for me. I'll say that about Bugonia.
And this is what's even crazier too, especially with Frankenstein, which we're going to be getting into as well, is the fact that as of right now, I have a top 10. I have a top 10 for the year. Now, granted, we still have 2 months to go. I still have to watch Marty Supreme. I was not able to watch it at New York Film Festival. But as of right now, I have a top 10, and it's pretty definitively.
No, I have a badass top 10, but there's still at least 3-4 movies that I'm confident could do XYZ to the list.
See, the thing is, based off of what I know just about myself and my own taste as well, I just know that for me, the only movie that stands a chance of making it onto my 10 before the end of the year is Marty. Like, there's obviously still going to be like movies that I'm looking forward to that I want to watch, like obviously Wicked, Avatar, Render's Family I still want to watch, Train Dreams I've heard good things about, what's it called? So there are still a bunch of Die My Love I also still need to watch. I'll watch Running Man. Like, there's still a bunch that needs to come out for the rest of the year, but I'm talking like in terms of like locks for my top 10. Also, can we just talk about the fact that this year started off as being like the worst year of the decade for movies up until like late July when we had the Superman Eddington Fantastic Four moment. And then once August kicked in, like they just started dropping just like jets.
I will say, yeah, like after another. I sometimes never know. Like there are at least 2 movies that I didn't go in with like that much excitement or that much expectation. Like I heard amazing things, but I didn't know like exactly how much I was going to love them. And they're still on my top 5 of the year.
Yeah.
which are Sorry Baby, and just a couple days before Bugonia, I just watched If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You,
Yeah,
which I
okay.
don't see leaving my top 5 of the year at all.
I
It's
need to rewatch
incredible.
that. I need to rewatch that because I was very, very tired when I saw that. I was falling
Oh,
asleep throughout it
no,
nonstop. So I need to watch that again. But the parts that I did see were very, very funny, and it's easily the best performance of Rose Byrne's entire career, like without a doubt.
it's really good. We can get into later like the movies.
Yeah.
Again, I'm looking at my top 10 now on Letterboxd. It's a great list. I think at least 3 or 4 movies have a really good shot of shaking it up, though.
Yeah, like I said, we'll see. But as of right now, like I said, my 10 is locked, and this movie is in my 10 because I guess kind of
Begonia's in my 10. It's not leaving the 10.
well,
for sure.
Begonia and Frankenstein are both in my 10 right now.
So let's talk about Frankenstein.
Yeah, so I
what you
think
like most about it?
well, so I think what's most interesting about this is the fact that I was skeptical going into it, despite all indicators to the contrary, because I have made this voice very well. I am a huge fan of 2000s Del Toro. 2000s Del Toro, which is Blade 2, Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, The Golden Army, and then that run kind of caps with Pacific Rim, which is in 2013. That to me is like one of the undisputable all-time great runs that any filmmaker has ever had. And then with his 2010s and early 2020s, he was disappointing me because
I think I'm the opposite, actually.
Yeah, see, that Crimson Peak movie was absolutely forgettable.
Okay.
I was not a fan of it. Shape of Water, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of Shape of Water. Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because the main character of that movie was not who it should have been, which is that instead of this dumb love story between a woman who may or may not have been a creature in a previous life and the creature of the Black Lagoon, and I was also low-key pissed that it wasn't an Ape Sapien story, but that's just a me thing, is the fact that the creature was obviously should have been the front and center, and it should have been just a two-hander between the creature, Michael Shannon, and Octavia Spencer. Like, you didn't, ultimately, Sally Hawkins' character, who was the main centerfold, was ultimately completely irrelevant, and I don't think added anything to that movie.
My biggest disagreement in the episode, because I think Sally Hawkins is beautiful in that film.
Good, but like I'm saying, the character itself is ultimately unnecessary to the plot, I think. And then Nightmare Alley is just an absolute snooze fest, completely forgettable. Like, the only thing that I remember about that movie is the ending, ironically. But the problem is the movie is so obviously predictable about what it's trying to set up that by the time it gets to that ending sequence with him and Tim Blake Nelson, and it is very, very good, it's like, oh, okay, like this is obviously where this is going to end. Like, there's no nuance or enjoyment to that movie. Now, the stop motion move Pinocchio that he did for Netflix back in 2022, I'm like, okay, this is good. This is getting back to basics for him. This is a step in the right direction. He's very clearly aping Leica animation with this, but it was very good. It's not breaking the wheel. And so when he announced that he was doing Frankenstein next originally with Oscar Isaac and Andrew Garfield originally, I'm like, okay, this could be good. I'm like, if there's anybody that could do a modern interpretation, and that's the thing that everybody forgets about. Yeah, this was originally supposed to be Andrew Garfield as the creature.
I remember
now,
that.
having seen it, could you imagine? And I love Andrew Garfield. I love him. Could you imagine what a disaster this would have been if it had been Andrew Garfield?
It wouldn't have sucked, but I just can't.
No, but it would have been a different movie.
Picture
it would not have been as good.
So I'm kind of the opposite. Let me tell you. So I think my first ever exposure to was Pacific Rim, a movie I was very excited for. I think I'm younger than you, but
you're a little younger.
At least a few years.
We're like just around that age range, so like it doesn't really matter that much.
At least a few years younger than you. So I saw Pacific Rim in theaters. I was 11, man, and I loved it.
Yeah, I was 16.
And only then I got into.
I had a fucking blast. I'm like, this is the greatest movie ever made.
I got into Pan's Labyrinth. Great. Shape of Water. I really loved. Not a fan of Blade or Blade 2 at all. Hellboy.
Well, he didn't do the first Blade, just the second one.
I know, but I hate both of them. And I didn't even give Blade Trinity the chance.
Well, yeah, Blade Trinity I've heard is awful, so.
Nightmare Alley, I have the same issue with you. It's just very slow. I like it. I appreciate it. But I think the through line with Frankenstein, and this is, I think, the strongest thing about Frankenstein, and that's not to degrade the rest of the movie. I just really want to shout this out about Frankenstein. The production design is some of the best of all time.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it's the same team that won the Oscar for Shape of Water and worked with him on Nightmare Alley, because the precision, the details, the smallest things are breathtaking. And I'm not like someone who knows much about set design or who's into it, but Frankenstein, let me say this. I do think the movie is a little long. I think you can cut maybe
that I agree.
10
that
minutes.
I agree with on. Yes, absolutely.
In the beginning, in the first half, I was like, this feels like an extended version of a masterpiece, but at the same time, it still feels like such a passion project for him.
Yes.
We've had so many different Frankensteins, but this is like him, going to the extreme with all these resources. I don't know exactly what. I'll look it up. okay, the budget's 120 million.
Yeah,
It shows that
it shows.
he
It
used it
shows.
to the extent. There is scale in this film. There's so much scale and so much sweeping. The cinematography is so sweeping. It takes a while to get going, but I think the character study here is really interesting. Oscar Isaac is a kind of guy who, like, his demons set off his ambition, and then his ambitions reignite his demons in a cycle. I think he treads such a complex line between likable, but then the dark road that he goes down. It's a really great performance from him.
Yeah, it is. I was a fan of Oscar Isaac. I'm like, when he first announced that like he was doing Oscar Isaac Frankenstein, I'm like, okay, that's actually perfect because Isaac is gonna nail like kind of that balancing between tortured and very theatrical that the character of Frankenstein is. And
A
the
bit like
thing is
Moon
that
Knight.
is similar to Wicked also, which is also coming out in a couple weeks. I am an OG Frankenstein head. I read the original novel when I was very young. I very, very much enjoyed it. Saw the original black and white one, the James Whale one from the 1930s. I think it's a horror masterpiece. One of the best movies that came out of that whole decade. And the thing that Del Toro understood about this movie, which, yes, I agree with all of your points, absolutely impeccable production design. The first hour was way too long. You could have cut that down and like half. You didn't need, I don't think you needed any of the stuff with the origin, with his piece of shit dad, played once again by Charles Dance, because Charles Dance just chose to play piece of shit dads for the rest of his career, and all this stuff
He's
going
brilliant.
on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's good at it, but it's like, we know that Charles Dance is capable of more. And all the stuff with Christoph Waltz, I'm like, okay, you didn't need any of that. Like, ultimately, all of that was just like a funny, like, kind of side bit of like just Waltz doing more Waltz and then ending with him dying in a really.
So Waltz is the section I would have shortened.
Yeah.
Waltz is the section I would have shortened.
That, honestly, I really don't see what that added ultimately to the movie. But Del Toro understands the original novel, and he understands kind of the essence of it, about how it's, because the original novel is so much more about kind of how, you know, ultimately how your ambition will consume you. But what I like what Del Toro did with this is he was able to push this a step further in the sense of, you know, your ambition will both consume you, but also about finding some of the good things that can come out of it, and not trying to say that it is inherently all bad, because where he is, he shows what I love about how he contrasts the Frankenstein section of the movie with the creature section of the movie is how he is able to show that whereas Frankenstein is tortured under the weight of this relentless kind of pressure and ambition that he feels that he has to live up to, and clearly trying to compensate for a lot of the demons of his past, the creature comes into this world completely kind of unburdened. And so as a result, everything to him that we would kind of take for granted comes off as so new and so fresh. And like, you're seeing it with like all this kind of beautiful naivete that you wouldn't necessarily expect, that you wouldn't necessarily buy if it was a regular human character. And that to me is always what has made Del Toro the master of horror, is the fact that he is able to make his creatures more human than the actual humans themselves.
I think also, first of all, contrary to you, I think I was thinking about this just now. I don't think before this movie I've ever actually experienced the original Frankenstein plot to its
I would very much recommend the,
because I haven't read the book, I haven't seen the original. I've seen the shitty I Frankenstein.
Oh
with
God,
let's talk about that. And then I've seen Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's
it's not
classic.
It's
which
not
also,
Frankenstein.
Also pays beautiful homage to the original novel, but in its own way.
Yeah, no, that's a different. It's not like. It's not literally Frankenstein, the adaptation, but it is a great movie. So this is the first time that I'm actually experiencing the original plot of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And so I was very much, one of the things that really caught me about the film is how much empathy we're feeling for Frankenstein's monster. Because, first of all, Jacob Elordi is incredible. The makeup work on him, but he is so amazing here. The voice, the physical of it, but also the empathy. There's a softness to him in this that I think is really beautiful. And the whole cast, like, there's a feeling of like, I'm so grateful to be here working with Del Toro, even though everyone's taking it very seriously.
Oh man, our girl horror icon Mia Goth, who is exceptional in this.
Great here. And definitely, like you said, Oscar Isaac, there's a like, don't do that to him, because you understand that his disdain for the creature is coming from his father's treatment of him and his sort of inability to compensate for his childhood being stolen from him by his mother's death. And that's like the thing that sort of triggered everything for him. Um, and yeah, again, I love how the creature, he's like already being like, he comes into the world and he's already being like abused and judged by Victor, but he's not always responding to it with such brutality. Like he sometimes is, but also like sometimes just taking it easy and being like, bro, like I'm just trying to chill, man. Like just
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I think again, it did feel really slow for me, but once we shift perspectives, that's when the movie really
That's when the
caught
movie
me.
takes off.
It's
Yeah.
it's where the movie's soul comes in. It's the tenderness, and also, again, there are some beautiful shots, and the score from Alexander Desplat is so
Exceptional.
powerful. Like it's like that meme from Snoop Dogg. Like he doesn't miss. Like
Yeah. You don't miss.
you don't miss. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie was the second half is really where it becomes the movie. And like, let me put this in
Mhm.
perspective. The second half is so good that it really makes up for almost all the flaws of the first one. I'm not saying the flaws aren't noticeable; they are still very much there. But that's how good the second half is. And like
I
you were saying,
agree.
it all comes down to Elordi's performance, which I really got to hand it to this guy. Also, the fact that, first of all, the fact that Elordi is 2 months older than me. My birthday is August 17th. His is June 26th, 1997. We're practically the same age. So that already is crazy enough. But like the fact that we're introduced to this guy as an actor in those shitty kissing booth movies, and then he goes on to play
I still haven't seen
exactly,
that.
and I will never watch those movies. And then for him to kind of become this icon for all the wrong reasons for the character of Nate Jacobs, a character that is simultaneously
It's a good performance. Like, say
incredible.
what you want about the show, it's a good performance.
But the problem is, it's the Will Poulter from Detroit thing where he is so good at being like so
Being mean,
evil
yeah.
in that show. Not even just mean, evil, like evil in that
Horrible.
show. Like he is Nate Jacobs is a
He's despicable.
despicable character that
Absolutely.
you forget like kind of how legitimately good and it really is a credit because like and I gotta give credit to Emerald Fennell for this as well, where Emerald Fennell understands our hatred of Nate Jacobs and is able to weaponize that when in Saltburn, because the fact that Barry Keoghan, who is clearly obviously a psychopath from the first minute of that movie, and you still are on his side because of all the built-up hatred that you have for Jacob Elordi from Euphoria. But all of that goes away here because they pull a Pattinson with him in the sense of where they strip away all of his prettiness, they cover him in this fantastic makeup and prosthetics work, and he is able to gain such a humanity for a performance that has very little words at first. It is almost 100% physical, like the mannerisms, the different ways of expression that the creature is able to get across in performances that we just don't get anymore because so much of movies are just dialogue driven.
Yeah, I like that you said that. Like, it strips away all his prettiness because I think people see him now as such a pretty actor.
Yes.
And it would be like it could have been such a stunt casting. Like, let's cast this popular, cute guy now as Frankenstein's monster and have everyone
that's what I was worried about when he was
playing
first
Frankenstein.
Cast. Yeah.
But no, like he really disappears. Like, it took me many scenes into his screen time to really like see him in the performance. To me, it felt like a quality of performance at the level of seeing Bill Skarsgård in Nosferatu. That's how much he just disappeared and was so. It was just, I don't even want to say chilling because this character is a lot gentler
not
than
chilling. If anything, it was
but,
moving. I will say that it was moving.
Good.
I was almost, and I don't say this about almost any movie or performance, I was almost moved to tears. And I legitimately cannot remember the last time that I saw that for a movie. Like that whole sequence when he stumbles upon the farm with David Bradley, and David Bradley is like basically teaching him how to be human. Like where it's one of those mentor-mentee relationships that I love, where it's like the weirdo loner that's misunderstood by the world that everybody sees as a freak, and then you get the one person who's able to see through and understand them. The irony being that literally he's blind, so he can't see them, but like kind of this inherent understanding where he's been doing all these tasks on the farm, and he's been considered like the spirit of the forest. And then the David Bradley character, when he's left alone in the cabin, he goes in there and like starts to like form this relationship with them, and he's able to kind of be the parental figure that the creature needs that Frankenstein was ultimately never going to be able to. And like I said, when it becomes the creature's movie, that's when the movie truly soars and results in, again, the rest of the movie, which once it gets back to it and plays out the rest of the novel, it is just spectacular stuff.
I actually think the most beautiful part about the movie comes in this section where there's a scene on the farm where wolves are attacking sheep.
Yes.
And in his narration, he says he sees himself as more of a sheep than a wolf.
Yes.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, you would never imagine that from a character who looks like that. It was, I don't know how much of that is from Mary Shelley versus from Del Toro's script, that was like the most brilliant piece of writing to come out of this movie is that he was like, why do creatures attack one another? But he sees himself in the sheep's position of needing to defend or feeling helpless and attacked, not the one who's fierce and vicious.
Yeah. So real quick, remind me, you saw this at TIFF, right?
Yeah.
So, and were you there for the Q&A with Del Toro after the fact or no?
I was. It was
okay,
it was definitely one of the best of the Q&As, which couple highlights from the Q&A. Guillermo del Toro quotes Superman in this movie. In the Q&A, he says, "Emotion is the new punk rock."
I'm telling
which
you,
I thought was funny. I don't think it was intentional.
Del Toro, he at the end of the day, he is one of us. He is just a big. He may be like a 70-year-old master filmmaker, but he truly is one of us. He's a giant nerd who loves movies, and it's why he's a G.
And then the other highlight is, this is not that funny, but when she's like talking to Robin Citizen, who is the moderator, who's a really great interviewer at TIFF, was asking Jacob Elordi, so your character Frankenstein, blah blah blah, and then Oscar Isaac's like, actually I'm Frankenstein, and then she's like, I was rehearsing for a mistake.
They did the classic mistake. That is a mistake.
Like every human being has probably made that mistake.
Literally,
like,
because
creature, he's Frankenstein, like right.
Literally, like been a bit of like promotion is the fact that because the Frankenstein name is so iconic, people assume that
the monster is Frankenstein.
But it's not. Frankenstein is the creator, and that's again kind of part of the lore. So that's so funny that they even include that in the press marketing, because again, it's the idea that Frankenstein, the true monster, is the creator, not the creation in that sense. And as far as how this is adapted from the original Shelley text, what I'll say that this movie improves upon, which again, the book is a masterwork, but what this movie improves on is giving the creature a lot more agency than I feel even the novel does. Now, granted, the creature does have agency by the end of the novel, for sure. Like, it is very autonomous. All the sequences that happen on the ship, that's all pretty much ripped right from the novel. But what I will say is the getting to see the creature gain agency and learn about the world and learn and understand all the ways in which it has been wronged. And then by the time he reunites with Frankenstein, at the wedding, what's it called? It really is a come full circle moment, which I mentioned Mia Goth as well, who again, absolute horror icon, really rose to fame with the Ty West horror trilogy, X and Pearl being much better than Maxine, notwithstanding. But all the sequences with her. All the sequences with her and the creature in this are just masterful, just absolute masterful. And like, it results in a really, really tragic couple of deaths that are ultimately at the end of the day, like they're inevitable. But at the same time, it's like you really feel bad for the creature once the people who die, because the problem is that aside from Frankenstein, its creator and original torturer, every other creature that the person that it tries to form a connection with dies, and it's really ultimately sad and adds to the tragic elements, because Frankenstein ultimately is a tragedy at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like singing of that show, Poker Face with Natasha Lyonne, where like everyone she befriends across America literally either gets murdered or is a murderer. So but it really does feel like an epic, but it's not leaning into action. It's not leaning into horror.
Well, a couple times the monsters throwing around people like basically acting like the Hulk, essentially. But I digress.
Yeah, I mean jump scares. It's not leaning into jump scares. It's it's very gracious with its pace. Again, sometimes too slow in the beginning, but it very much allows the quietest moments to breathe, even in such a massive spectacle, even with the specificity of how the shots are set up and how the sets are built. It's not all about, the gunshot in the scene. It's also about the space as they're, running towards each other, or the sky before the lightning hits down. It's like,
it's all about capturing the human moments and ultimately capturing the humanity in each and every scene. Like, every time the creature gets shot, you feel it, and you feel its pain ultimately. And even though the wounds do heal, you understand just how badly it has been hurt, not just physically, but like emotionally and mentally. And Del Toro captures that in a way that I really have not seen from him in a very, very long time, probably not since Pan's Labyrinth, and also that he is able to do that in a way that no other filmmaker truly is. I really do think it's interesting that we're talking about this in the same episode that we're talking about Bugonia, where we're balancing out one of the most cynical movies that I've ever seen with a tragedy that is based on a classic that, in a way, left me feeling more hopeful at the end than almost any other movie that I've seen so far this year, which is kind of crazy when you consider
which one's which?
Frankenstein we're talking about. Exactly, right?
Which one's the cynical one? No,
it's like, I don't know. Ugh. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's really really good, and like it's one of those things where again, like obviously it's Frankenstein. It's one of the original stories, so like obviously people are going to have
Mhm.
expectations going in, but for this to kind of blow me away and really truly be one of the surprises of the year in the sense of where, wow, I did not expect that Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein would leave me feeling hopeful for humanity. And because
But it yeah.
even if it doesn't, even if it's not saying anything about like the state of things where we're at right now, like movies like Bugonia, like one battle after another, but that's not its purpose. It's not supposed to be commentary. It's very much it's fable ultimately. At the end of the day, it's like you were saying, it's grandiose, it's fable, it's epic, is what it
I
is.
think that's
It's a
what Guillermo really excels in, is fable,
yeah.
throughout his entire career. I think wow, I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, so still thinking about that creature getting shot. It's like it's tough. It's tough,
Yeah,
man.
you
You
feel like
really feel
something
for him.
dies in him. Like he's just like, I'm offended, man. Like I'm just looking at you, and you're like, boom, like you know what I mean?
It's so good. It's so good. But
They,
yeah,
the guy who shoots, he probably watched Euphoria. That's why. Like,
probably. He's like, oh shit, that's that guy.
oh, I remember what I
He
was gonna
saw
say, but
the
like,
makeup and prosthetics like immediately. That's what it was.
it's
But
like the fact that there's been like 1,000 Frankenstein's, I don't think makes this one
right.
tiring at all. It feels like Guillermo elevates it. He makes it his own. He puts so much passion in it. This is like a definitive version. He finds new things in it. The same way, like I don't know, Dracula's been around for ages, but
Yes.
once Robert Eggers put his stamp on like the Nosferatu imagining
Right.
of it,
Which
it's like,
technically
whoa, I want to see
predates,
this thing.
which technically, so Nosferatu predates Dracula the movie, but it was after the original novel. And
Mhm.
I already talked about this last
Yeah,
week, Nosferatu, but the whole thing about how they literally just straight up ripped off Dracula and didn't consult the original owner, and then they sued it, and the Bram Stoker's estate sued the filmmakers and won, which is why the movie was what all copies were burned, and it was only recently recovered. It's
Lord.
one of the most fascinating behind the scenes stories of all time. And to the Frankenstein
Even
point, as far as there being like 1,000 different iterations of Frankenstein, what's so interesting about that is this is not the last Frankenstein adaptation we're getting, because we're getting
the
Maggie
bride, yeah,
Gyllenhaal's The Bride with Christian Bale.
which looks good.
It
It
does
looks
look really
good.
good. It looks completely different than this, but that's
It
in
looks like
that's
Joker.
in March. Yeah,
It
very
looks kind of like Joker.
Joker Folie à Deux, specifically the criminally underrated Joker Folie à Deux. Like, come on, like
Um,
let's
but even Del Toro, like Pinocchio. How many Pinocchios are there? Even just in the 2020s,
just in
his
that
feels
year
like the best.
alone, there were like
100
3
years
or
of
4
Pinocchio
other
content,
Pinocchio movies
his
that came
feels like
out.
the best for me. Or like I don't know, a lot of those come in where it's like, whoa, like this has been around for so long. Maybe like Spielberg with West Side Story, but once this director put their stamp on it, it feels like it reached its full potential. This particular tale, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. I don't necessarily even know how much more I have to say on it, other than like, yeah, one of the biggest surprises for the move for the year easily, and especially also
One thing
from
I'll
the
ask,
service. Yeah, yeah.
one thing I'll ask, going back to the start of the episode is where do you think this movie has a genuine shot in the Oscars? Because I think we're talking
Yes.
about two movies that have that, you know,
Yes.
Bugonia and Frankenstein, both, you know, they've been nominated for Best Director. Del Toro has 3 wins. I did not like when the Venice reviews came out, they were like good. One TIFF and onward, everyone is just loving Frankenstein more and more. I'm not sure if both will get in, but
I do.
where do you
I think
think
both will get
either
in.
has the shot?
I
Do you
think
think
both will
Frankenstein?
get in. I don't know
Really?
about their
Okay.
chances for director. The director race is still wide open, and I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Begonia, I'm way more confident on, because the whole thing is I'm like, it's Yorgos and Emma starring vehicle. Like, that has done gangbusters for them twice now in the past. Kinds of Kindness being the one exception. With this movie, it's the fact that it's where they're gonna excel in the marketing for this, as far as getting this all the way to the Best Picture prize. So you're right. The fact that Del
The
Toro has had
filmmaker.
2 of his movies get nominated for picture, the fact that his Pinocchio movie won animated feature as well, so he's got multiple Oscar wins. He's a multiple Oscar nominated and winning director. And what they're gonna do with this is, rather than focus on the horror and the Gothic elements, they're going to tap into, oh, this is
Del
a
Toro.
no, not even just that. Like, this is a remnant of film history. Like, because the
Yeah,
thing that
yeah,
they've been
James
having
Whale.
a lot of success with in the past couple of years with Oscars, I would say since the 2023 Oscar with the Oppenheimer moment, is like, we are not making this for regular people. We are doing this for people who love film. Like, that
I
is what
think
our
like
focus is first and foremost. And since again, Frankenstein is one of the original Hollywood films that's ever made. Like, it's all been almost 100 years since it originally was first introduced to the big screens. Like, that to me is where they'll have their marketing. That and just the power of Jacob Elordi's performance on it. Like, he is almost been single-handedly singled out at almost every festival, almost every place that they debut this film as the signature standout. And I truly do believe that he is the first person to rival Sean Penn for the Best Supporting Actor Oscar. I'm saying it now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm going that far.
Chris, I think, like, I wouldn't go that far with his... Is Jacob Elordi's performance Oscar worthy? Maybe. Is he getting nominated? I have no idea. But I think, like, here's the thing. I think Del Toro is just so beloved that I don't know the Academy will like, none of the other guilds really triumphed Nightmare Alley. Then the Oscars came in and said they put it in for Best Picture,
which was unexpected as well. Like, I was not expecting Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, me neither. And so Frankenstein is like, it's being marketed as his passion project. Netflix, if they are confident with this one, if they're pushing this one more, like, it's easy. I think the director is because it's easily getting nominated for costume, makeup, production design, maybe also visual effects and score. And then it could also get, the picture nomination because of the director. And I feel like I didn't even think about this until yesterday. I didn't even think it was at all close to the Best Picture competition. But I think just the more and more people are talking about it, the higher the love is for it. I think it's looking really good. I don't know if it'll be Netflix's strongest Best Picture push, but I also think it could be.
Well, the other thing that you got to consider just about this year specifically is the fact that all of Netflix's other, like, kind of big Oscar pushes have kind of crashed and burned. Like, the Ballad of a Small Player died at TIFF. Jay Kelly did not get good reviews coming out of Venice. It got kind of interesting reviews coming out of New York. They're waiting to see what happens when that opens wide.
House of Dynamite
was never even a player to begin with. I don't know why anybody was it's been
from
so
a Best Director
long.
winner.
Well, the problem, but that's the problem. It's been so long since Catherine Bigelow was nominated, because that's the thing that everybody forgets. Catherine Bigelow was not nominated for Zero Dark 30. She wasn't. Which is crazy, because she already had the big win because Hurt Locker was such a major event, and because Zero Dark 30 and then a couple years later Detroit were perceived as being so similar to those movies that she really didn't. It really kind of was a little bit of an overhyped. And I saw House of Dynamite. I liked it. I didn't love it. I thought the movie had problems, a lot of problems actually. Namely the fact that movie was just so scared to show the thing that it was building to that it just reset and just told the events from different.
I think it's a really good movie, actually.
It's fine. It's a movie that I watched once. I'm like, okay, that was solid. I'm like, I'm not gonna go back and like rewatch it. Let me put it this way: even something as ridiculous as Amelia Perez, I understand why the Academy was willing to show that movie love, because as ridiculous and problematic as that movie was, it was trying to go for something, and it took a big swing. It missed hard, or depending on which perspective you go with, because it got nominated for all those Oscars and won
13 times. Yeah,
what's it called? That was at least like going for something in a way that I feel like
Frankenstein is like going for something,
right? But
that maybe the others aren't as much.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So with that being said, and Jay Kelly ultimately, from what I've gotten from it, it's another like wistful throwback to like, how hard my life is as an actor. Like, no, I really am questioning like what Noah Baumbach's motivation was with Jay Kelly, based off of what I've heard. And I have a feeling that, like I said, the Oscars always love to nominate at least one or two movies that they know that like are going to generate controversy, because they know that gets views. So I could see Jay Kelly getting in on that. But as of right now, to me, just based on the fact that all the other, Train Dreams, a movie that nobody was talking about before TIFF, is starting to generate a little bit of buzz, because that's how weak the Netflix slate is this year. So that's kind of my thoughts on just the overall general Oscars of it all. And why I'm like, it's by virtue of the fact that this is literally their strongest contender, because out of the movies that I've seen so far that Netflix has put up, I still have yet to see Jay Kelly and Train Dreams, but it's the strongest one they put out easily for me. Not counting K-pop Demon Hunters, but that's just the biggest success of the the fact that outside of Sinners and Weapons, the fact that a Netflix animated anime-esque movie about a K-pop band that fights demons is the biggest movie in the world should show you where we're at right now as a culture. And by the way, that will be my top 10 of the year, unabashedly.
That was a fun movie, but let me say this. It's going to be a hard one for the Academy to pass on, specifically because it's Del Toro, and it's not... it's one that I could even see the Golden Globes and everyone like only the Critics' Choice and Oscars being big on. Um, Bugonia, I wonder if it's gonna stay in the Best Picture discussion for a while because it's definitely a movie that's gonna be big at the Globes, probably Critics' Choice. I'm not sure. I think it could even get away with just a picture and screenplay nomination or just picture, screenplay, and cinematography. I think Clemens and Stone are likely contenders. I don't know if they'll get nominated, but it's still likely.
Yeah.
I really don't know. There's so many like movies that are sort of switching in and out of Best Picture.
Yeah.
I think it also just comes down to the studios and which player. Like Neon has 4 movies that they could easily throw in, like invest the most in
To
right
me,
now.
right now, just as far as the Neon of it goes, Neon to me has international feature in the bag because the fact that there is a very, very strong chance that all 5 of those nominees will be distributed by Neon is absolutely insane. Because you're talking like sentimental value. It was just an accident, no other choice. Surratt and The Secret Agent. The fact that those 5 movies, all of which are distributed by Neon, could be our 5 for international feature. Now we still got to see where Voice of a Hidden Job goes, but yeah, like also it was just an accident. Another movie where I don't know if you saw that at TIFF, but I saw that recently.
I saw it. Yeah.
Oh
Great
man,
film.
talk about
Great
a surprise for sure. Not expected that.
Really fantastic. Yeah, so it's one where I think it'll come down really to like who they think their strongest horses are. Like again, I don't know. Like I don't know all the inside and like what people think of each movie, but you know, it could easily come down to which 2 movies the Neon executives thinks are the best, or which 2 Netflix thinks are the best, or which 2 Universal thinks are the best. I think Frankenstein's definitely a viable contender. I think it'll at least get like 4 nominations.
Oh yeah.
But
and all the technical awards that it'll be up for, it'll get score, it'll get production design,
probably visual effects, production design for sure.
It's winning right now. I was convinced that Weapons was winning makeup up until this movie. I'm like, yeah, this is winning makeup and hair for sure. And obviously costume design too.
Yeah, I think Frankenstein has the benefit of being, you know, Frankenstein 1931 being considered one of the most iconic and influential movies of all time. And, you know, like you have films that are nominated for Best Picture, like West Side Story, that was based on a previous Best Picture winner, or Wicked, which goes all the way back to Best Picture nominee, The Wizard of Oz.
Exactly.
Like now that I think of it, the last couple of days, Frankenstein's going to be a hard one for them to pass on. For me, it's an 8 out of 10. It's not like on my top 10 of the year, but it's still a great movie. It's one that's patient, but if you watch it and really just take in the beauty and the themes and forgive a slightly overlong runtime, I think it pays off.
Same. I agree. It is one of the few movies that is actually worth the wait and very, very much pays off a dreadfully slow first act, I would say, but it more than pays off all the things that you love about Del Toro's movies and what Del Toro is best at, like the things that really make you like gravitate towards his movies. They're all to be found here. I was shocked when I said, yeah, this is up there. This is like my number 3 for Del Toro overall. The only ones that I have above the Pacific Rim. I'm unabashedly, I'm sorry. I love that movie too much. And Pan's Labyrinth, but yeah, this is up there for me for sure. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 easily. And like I said, as of right now, it's in my top 10. So we shall see which entries get knocked out, if any, by the time Marty Supreme comes out in December. Yeah, Gull, it was awesome having you back on, man. I got to get you back on for at least one more before the end of the year as well. I may also see a potential Oscars prediction roundtable episode that you could possibly hop on.
Always a good time. And I'd really like to be on that.
Yeah,
because,
definitely. I'll
as you
see
can see, my curiosity towards, you know, December, January, February is already brewing up here.
Oh, dude, it's been brewing for me since TIFF. Honestly, since before TIFF, but after TIFF, more so. My biggest anticipation now for the rest of the year is really going to see like the general public's reaction to No Other Choice and Testament of Ann Lee, which are both opening on Christmas and both were, to me, like 2 of the best entries that I saw at TIFF. No Other Choice being my number 1 easily of the entire festival. But I'll be really interested in the Academy's reaction to that, especially since it's the funniest movie that Park Chan-wook has ever made, which I can't believe that sentence just actually came out of my mouth. But
yeah, I think out of all the international movies, that's the one that I'm most like, I would like that one to overperform because Park Chan-wook's been cursed at the Oscars, and I would love for this to be the one to make them go. Having seen it as well, and I'm with you, I would like for this one to be the one for them to go. Yep. Nominate him there, nominate him there. Like he deserves his flowers.
He really does. He really, really does.
Like Decision to
long
Leave
past
was
time.
well. Handmaiden is
Handmaiden. We all know about Handmaiden. And honestly, I would also recommend, but outside of his Vengeance trilogy, which is beautiful, one of his first movies he did, a Joint Security Area back in the year 2000. Highly, highly recommend that if you haven't seen
Okay,
that.
cool.
Yeah. All right. So, Gull, awesome having you back on as per usual. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
So my user online is Film Toppings at film like movies toppings like toppings you put on pizza, which is my name on Instagram and YouTube, which are the places I'm most active. And yeah, I've been posting about movies that are now coming out, that are about to come out, top 10 lists, and so on. And Dominic, thanks for having me on again, talking about two great movies that I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about in the coming weeks and months.
Fingers crossed.
Especially as this one is dropping on Netflix on Friday, November 7th.
Yes, absolutely. I highly recommend people, like I said, we both had the privilege exclusive to be able to go and see this in the theaters, but this will be on Netflix wide this coming weekend. I highly, highly recommend that everybody who can watch this, go watch this. It is truly, truly one of the best of the year. You guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talking TV Podcast across all platforms. Be sure to check out the Talking TV merch, which will be in the bio as well for upcoming videos as well going forward. I'm going to be working on a commercial for that. That will be available to watch shortly. And of course, for myself, from Gull, be sure to check out all the other streams that we put up this weekend, our Amazon Hall of Fame, our mine and Luke's review of Expose, the silliest episode of Lost ever made. Be sure to check out all of that and more. It is all available on the Talking TV podcast for you, the viewing audience who comes back every single week. So dutifully so. 12 seasons in a short film, and watch more fucking movies. We will see you guys next time.